Hello viewers, this is Pratiksha back with another video. In this video, let's dive into the basics of Python. What exactly is Python? Python is a general purpose, interpreted, interactive, object-oriented, and high-level programming language. It was created by Guido van Rossum during 1985 to 1990. By general purpose, we mean that it can be used for all kinds of tasks and not just the domain-specific ones. Python is processed at runtime by the interpreter. You do not need to compile your program before executing it, which is why it is an interpreted programming language. You can actually sit in front of a Python prompt and interact with the interpreter directly to write your programs, which makes it interactive. And lastly, Python supports the technique of programming that encapsulates code within objects, thereby making it object-oriented. Python allows users to store values inside memory locations called variables. When we talk about variables, keep in mind that they can only start with an alphabet or an underscore and not with numbers. You can have different kinds of data such as integers, floating point values, strings, lists, dictionaries, etc., which will be covered in further slides. Let's now look at a few examples. On your top right corner, a is a variable that stores the integer value 7. Name underscore 1 and name underscore 2 are the same irrespective of the single and double quotes. They store the same string value, that is Python. B is another variable storing floating point value, that is 3.7. Python allows multiple assignments where we can assign values to multiple variables in a single statement. So here A, B, and C take the values 1, 2, and 3 respectively. Similarly, X and Y, both of them get the value 7. Moving ahead, we have arithmetic operators that carry out the same functions as they do in mathematics. So if we assign 5 to X, 2 to Y, we can perform several arithmetic operations, some of which are addition, subtraction, multiplication, etc. Python provides something called placeholders to add strings together. So if we have two variables, name and sentence, holding the strings Jessica and %S is a captain of Rosewood High School, and then we type in sentence percentage name, we get the output as Jessica is a captain of Rosewood High School. This happened because S has been replaced with name. This is how you add two strings together using placeholders in Python. List is a data structure in Python that allows us to store data and is changeable. They are created using square brackets, and as every other programming language, indexing starts at 0. Look at the top left corner of your screen. We have a list of integers, 10, 20, and 14. This is a very simple list containing just integers. And then we can also have a string list where we have 3 strings, Python, is, and fun. They're stored at index values 0, 1, and 2 respectively. So when we print list of 0, we get Python, and list of 2 gives us fun. We have multi-dimensional lists, also called as nested lists. So Python, is, and awesome are two separate lists that are encapsulated in a single list, making it multi-dimensional in nature. Next, we have dictionaries. They're used to store data in a key-value pair fashion. That is, every key maps to a value. These are created using curly brackets. Data is mutable in case of a dictionary. So we have 3 keys which have 3 values. A maps to 1, which is a string. B maps to 2, which is another string. But C maps to an integer value 3. Moving forward, we have something called tuples in Python, which is another data structure that stores data but is immutable, that is, it cannot be changed. So we have a simple list tuple containing apple, banana, cherry, 1 and 3. On your right side, the first code snippet illustrates how to retrieve the elements of a tuple. Apple is stored at 0, banana at 1, cherry at 2, 1 at 3, and 3 at 4 index value. So, this tuple of 1 gives us banana, and similarly, this tuple of -1 gives us the last element in the invoking tuple, that is, this tuple. Then we have conditional statements. The name itself suggests what they do. These are blocks of code that get executed only if a certain condition is satisfied. Let's take A is equal to 41 and B is equal to 741. It checks for the condition if B is greater than A. If the case is true, then it prints B is greater than A. In the second example, on your bottom left corner, let's take A and B as 31 each. So it checks for two conditions, whether B is greater than A. If not, it goes to the next condition and checks if they are equal. And if they are equal, it prints A and B are equal. Since A and B both are 31, A and B are equal is been printed. In the last example, we also have a shorthand notation for the same. Coming to loops, we have two kinds of loops in Python, one being the finite loop and the other being the infinite loop. For loop is known as the finite version in Python as it is executed for a certain number of times. So if we have a list, fruits containing apple, banana, cherry, for X in fruits, it prints all of them. And in the second example, it checks if X double equals banana. If the value of X is banana, it breaks the loop and prints only up to apple. Then comes the while loop, which is also called the infinite version of loops in Python, as it continues to execute a block of code until a specified condition evaluates to false, making it more prone to an infinite loop when compared to a for loop. We have a simple loop where I is initialized to 1. While I is less than 6, it prints all the numbers 1 through 5. In the second example, it checks if I is less than 6, it prints all of them and increments each value by 1. And when this condition turns false, it prints I is no longer less than 6. How are errors handled in Python? The answer is try, except, finally block. The try block tests for errors in code, if any. And if an error is encountered, then it is handled by the except block. And the code under the finally block is executed irrespective of the results of the try and except blocks. Imagine a scenario where you want to calculate the multiplication of any two numbers 50 times. What would you prefer? Write 50 multiplications or write it once and use it 50 times? Python allows us to do so by the concept of functions. Function is a block of code that can be used by any number of times and can have arguments too. Using functions is beneficial in terms of reduced memory usage, modularity, and readability of a program. When talking about functions, there can be two types, built-in functions and user-defined functions. So when you don't find the required built-in function, you can define one on your own and use it as much as you want. These are not the only built-in functions. You can find more of them on Google. Let's have a brief look at what object-oriented programming is. Here we create classes which contain all the data and functions. Objects or instances are created in order to make use of these classes. Below is a simple class named person that contains two methods, namely getName and getAge. By using the self keyword as a parameter, we can access the attributes and methods of the class in Python. It binds the attributes with the given arguments. In other words, self is a parameter in function, and user can use another parameter name in place of it. So inside the get name function, we print the name Rosha, and inside the get age function, we print the person's age as 23. Look at the other example. Here we have a constructor and a show function. We create two objects, Rose and Alice, of the class person, and we pass in parameters in name and age, and then call the show function to display their names and ages. And to wrap up this session, let's learn what inheritance is. With inheritance, one can use methods of one class in another. That is, properties of a class are inherited to another. Here we have a concept of parent or base class and child or derived class. What they mean, the class from which another class inherits is called a base class, and the class that inherits from the base class is called a derived class. So we have a class called person. We have a constructor and a function called print name, which prints the first name and the last name of a person. We have a derived class student, which derives properties of the base class person. So we call the print name function using x, which is an object of class student. We pass in two parameters, Rose and Alice, which is then printed. Thank you. Hit the like button if you have liked the video. To get more updates, subscribe to our channel, and do not forget to share this video.